All right, let's go. The live session is beginning, so it's time to ask all the questions you want. I hope the streaming is fine, that the quality is fine, the audio and the video. And I'm going to start with a tune just to make sure everybody is here. Let's play some tune. So this was a douce ambiance to start the live session. I hope you liked it. Okay, so let's read the questions you have. Hi from Maryland. Hi, Carl. I hope the sound is good and the video is good too. Who's the best living guitar player in your opinion? For this kind of questions, I don't really like to answer because there is not one best living guitar player. There's probably some guitar players that I really like, but the best, it doesn't work that way. It's not a competition. Hi, Antoine. So let me read the questions. Yes, the tune was Douce Ambiance. If I can play over tears, yeah, I can do this, but first let me read some questions, and if there aren't a lot of questions, yes, I can do this. Yeah, so I have a question from Antoine, who comes from classical music. Any advice to not play like a robot? Probably because in classical music, there are music sheet and the notes are, you can change the notes. In jazz, it doesn't, in improvisation, it doesn't work that way. So how can you do to understand the reason or the purpose of every note or every chord? Well, you have to get used to this way of thinking the music, which is probably very different from what you already know. If you really know classical music very well, it's not the same way of playing the music, and it's the risk you take when you improvise. It's something that you take a lot of thrill doing it. So this is the first advice I can give you. And then you really have to, when you think about the chords of a tune, you have to be able to play on the neck all the notes of this chord, which are called the guide tones or the chord arpeggio. And this is, and I would say that if you try to, how can I say that? First, learn your arpeggios on an easy song. So just a few arpeggios, like on Coquette maybe, or it can be on Douce Ambiance is not a great tune to start with, but Coquette probably, or some others tune, like Minor String is a great tune if you want to start. A minor, D minor, and E7 only. And then try to play the notes of these chords on your neck. So let me show you quickly. For an A minor, this is the note of A minor. So if you know the name of the notes, it's A, C, E, and F sharp, A minor 6. And then for G minor, it's D, F, A, and a B. For E7, E, G sharp, B, and D. And try to play the notes at the right moment in the backing track, in the tune, and try to try some stuff, like try melodies, try to play other notes. And this is something really something you really like to change the notes. People won't like it because it's not in the spirit of this music. I hope these advices will help you. If not, tell me. For Gypsy Jazz beginner, I would say for any type of music, any style of music, guitar beginner, I would suggest you to, if possible, to buy a guitar that's appropriate to play this music. So the best for Gypsy Jazz is the Gypsy Jazz guitar, and to have fun when you learn. Don't do exercises that will get you bored and you won't like it so much. So try as much as possible to have fun, and then start with easy tunes with easy chords, like playing La Pompe over a minor swing. This is an easy way to start. And you can see I have you probably saw that I have a full video, a free video on YouTube to start the, I don't know, I don't remember how it's called, Gypsy Jazz Beginners, or how to improvise in Gypsy Jazz, something like that. My pick technique. Yes, I can show you that in detail. So my picking technique, it was very much inspired by all the guitar players I like. So starting by Django Reinhardt, because you can see you can find videos when you see how he hold the pick exactly. In J'attendrai, you can see that, and in other rare videos you can see that too. So the way I hold my pick is like I should say, more or less a very common way. I have my hand like this. I put the pick here, and this is the how my hand is when I plug the strings. And then I have this movement. I don't do this so much, you know. I don't do this so much, just a little, to be able to use the weight of my hand. What's really important, just to answer your question, what's really important to my point of view is that more or less the pick has to be part of your hand. So you have to grab it really very strong. But what's not so easy is that you have to grab it really strong, but you have to be relaxed. And that's not easy. Usually what happens when my student grab the pick really strong is that they do like that. No, you have to, here it has to be really firm, a firm grip, but the rest of the hand has to be pretty loose. And you have to use the weight of the hand to plug the strings. I hope that answer the question. Yeah, but it's a really a long process to find the right way to hold the pick. You have to look at other guitar players. You have to play a lot to see what is comfortable for you, and also the technique helps you, the technique you use helps you having a loud sound, which is not easy. I hope that answers the question. Whoa, there are a lot of questions. The sound is great, cool. The video has some delays. Too bad. From Northampton. Nice. Django in June, I was there last year. The most difficult Django solo, I don't know. I know some that are really difficult, but I don't try to find the most difficult. I know there are some that are really, really difficult because they are fast and really precise. Tabs versus sheet music. Which tool can I use to improvise over chord changes with looping some bars? Yes, iReal Pro is nice. It's not awesome, but it's really useful, I think. The sound helpful. I would think that there are basically two ways. Finding backing tracks is one way, and another one is to record yourself a backing track. Let me show you how to do this. Let me do it right now. So I take an app of vocal recorder. My smartphone, I put it here. It's a good place. If I put it really too far from me, the sound will be really bad. and I play La Pompe, for example, I don't know, let's try E7, R7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So what I did here on purpose is that I played some before changing the chord, so that I will know what I will play on this recording, that the chord will change. So there are various ways various stuff I can do to help me know when the chord will change. And I did this because I suppose that it's for more or less beginner player or intermediate level players. But if it's easy for me to stay on a not to, how can I say that, to mix measures. If it's easy for me, then I can just record a backing track myself. And what's really good with this is that if La Pompe, when you play La Pompe, if it sounds bad, the backing track will be bad and you will hear it. So that's a great way to get better. Hi from Mexico. Mm-hmm. My strings. Yes, the question was asked yesterday because I did a live session yesterday. My strings are 11s, but it really depends, choosing between these two strings, the 10s and the 11, it's the judge of the strings. It's really a question of what you like, what's your guitar. That's the main stuff. You have to try the various strings on your guitar, the 10 and the 11, and you have to see if you like to. The sound will be different, and it will be easier probably to play on strings that are 10, that have a judge of 10. So next questions. How can I unlearn pentatonic blues scales? How can I unlearn the pentatonic blues scales? Yes, it's a common mistake people do when they come from blues or rock, and they play on a Gypsy Jazz tune, and they're like, and this is really, it's a, because you can use pentatonic scale with a jazz with jazz melodies. For example, if I do this, it will sound more jazz than blues. So a great way to get out from this is to force yourself to use 7 notes scales, but also to what I did, because I had this problem a long time ago. You have to force yourself to play really slow. So just take, I don't know, for example, I work on Daphne. It's basically chords in the D major scale. So this is the D major scale. I will try to find melodies that are not this, but more like. So you have to play note. This is an exercise you can do. You have to play note by note, one note, another one, and then when it starts to sound blues, change the note so that it doesn't sound blues. Because usually it's really, how can I say that, reflexes we have when we play on pentatonic scale. We know the tune and the key of the tune, and we are used to play blues, so what we play is blues licks. It doesn't sound so good in Gypsy Jazz. It can sound good, but if you play only blues licks, it won't work. I hope that this helps. use an exercise about minor melodic altered mode. Okay, that's nice. This is a more advanced question, and that's fine. The altered scale is not really used so much by Django the way it's used in, I would say, American jazz. It's not like really a scale. So let's take, I don't know, E altered. It will sound like this. What I advise you to do is to do two things. First, you have to know this scale. It's really, really useful because it will help you knowing what notes are in this scale. So when you analyze a lick, for example, and you like it, you will see if it's in the altered scale. And this is something that's really common because it's a very common scale. There are a lot of Django Reinhardt licks that are in this scale. He probably didn't know that it was called the altered scale, but this is the sound he used. Let me show you an easy one. For example, if I am on a B7 chord, this is the altered scale. Here's a famous Django lick. It's more, and as you can see, it's more or less it's 2 notes per string. This is something that's really important because if you play all the notes of the altered scale, it won't sound so gypsy jazz. Just play 1 or 2 notes per string and it will sound really good. So this is another way of using the altered scale that sounds much more gypsy jazz, I would say. I hope this helps. Great, now it's raining in Paris. So, no, I don't have a vegan pick. No, I don't. The one I tried, the picks of vegan I tried, I didn't like them so much with my guitar because the pick you choose depends a lot on your guitar. Some guitar will sound great with one pick and they won't sound great with another one. And this is the same for the picks. I will try not to miss any question. On playing Manouche standards with players you don't know, how do you typically start a song? Is it on the lead player to play an intro or the rhythm players to start? This is a great question. On the rhythm players to start. This is a great question because this is something that's really important to me. I would say the social behavior, this music. So the first thing I would do if I would play with other people is that I would make sure that they are comfortable. And it's not so it's not so common. If they are friends of mine, of course I know they will be comfortable. But I often play with people who are more or less like stressed, So I won't start with like, okay, let's do this song. No, I will start with, what song do you want to play? Okay, this tempo is fine for you. And this happens when I play with people who are stressed to play with the people. So the first thing to do is, to my point of view, is to make sure that everyone will have a great moment, more or less. Then what I like to do is to vary the ways to start a tune. So sometimes it will be with an intro. That's easy for me to play. I won't play something that's really hard to start a tune. It's like, okay, is this tempo is fine for you? All right. even say out loud 1, 2, 3, 4 to make sure that everyone is has the right tempo. But sometimes I can also suggest, or the guy who wants to play the lead can suggest, can I start on the head? All right, and then it can be. It depends. There are various ways to start. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. This was Rose Room. Or the player can start like and we will start not on the first bar, but on the second or the third bar. It sounds great too. So it's what's really important to answer more precisely to your question is that everybody understands how the song is going to start. And the easiest way to do it is to just say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. What Gypsy Jazz guitar under €1,000 would I suggest for a beginner? I don't know. I'm not a specialist of these topics. I know some guys have some answers, but I'm not a specialist. What I would suggest is to go to a shop that you know has some Gypsy Jazz guitars, and to go with a friend who knows this kind of guitar and this kind of sound, to go with this friend and just to pick the guitar your friend thinks sound good and that you like also. But I think it can be risky if I say, okay, this guitar is €500 and it's always good. Probably you will buy one which will be good and another one who will be bad, because it depends on the guitar. It's not a guitar. Even if for the same model of guitar, there can be variations on the quality. So I'm sorry, I can't really answer to this question. I don't know. I don't really know. The best minor scales to play over a minor chord, not a minor 7, but a minor triad. Okay, this is a good question, and it's really useful. The answer will help probably a lot of people. On a minor chord, I would suggest 2 scales that are really common in jazz. I would suggest the Dorian, which is probably the most common because you can play more or less on any minor chord. Minor chord that are the first degree of the scale, but it's also the second degree of the scale, which is usually played minor 7, but also the fourth degree of the scale. All this works. So Dorian scale, which will sound on a A minor, it will sound like this. And the other one will be the melodic minor scale, which will sound like this. It's almost like the major scale, but with a minus third. Personally, I really like this one. I don't play this one on the second degree chords, but on all the other chords, I prefer this one. It sounds really nice. The harmonic minor scale is more useful if you're an intermediate player or beginner, but it's not the best scale you can use. And also the Aeolian scale, don't play it. It's often that I see students playing this scale because they come from pop, from blues, rock, where it is pretty common scale. But no, on Gypsy Jazz, don't play the Aeolian scale. No, almost never. I hope this answers the question. So let me see the other questions. Alternate picking for gypsy swing, yes, maybe, or no way. Alternate picking, I would say no way. No way if you really want to sound typical in gypsy jazz and really have a typical gypsy jazz sound. I come from alternate picking, and this is what I use for all the styles of music I play, except for gypsy jazz. But this is because I want to have a really loud sound and a good hand technique, and I made this choice of working hard to get a good technique and a really typical technique, typical of gypsy jazz. But probably it's not your choice. It may not be your choice. And in that case, that's also fine if you have a mic, if you use a stimmer mic, for example, or any kind of mic that allow you to play an alternate picking. So it's down, down, up, down, up. This is alternate picking. The picking we use in gypsy jazz is more or less based on alternate picking, but every time I change strings, I skip string, I move from one string to another, I do a downstroke. This is down, 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 down. So it depends on what you want, but if you really want to have a typical and a really good technique in gypsy jazz, no alternate picking, sorry. Except if you stay on the same string, of course. If you stay on the same string, it's alternate picking. But if you skip strings, it will change. You have to play downstrokes. How to make solos better than scale up and scale down? Well, there is something interesting in that question, because something that you have to be aware of is that all the exercises that you will do will influence your playing. You have to be aware of this, because you may think that if you play your scale up and down, you will know your scale. Not only, it also means that if you do this kind of exercise going up and down the scale for hours, you will probably end up with improvising and playing scales up and down. And this is probably not something you want. So you have to be aware of this. When you choose an exercise, it will really influence your playing. So you have to choose a good exercise. How can you avoid this? For this kind of things that are difficult to change, because it's something that that comes naturally when you play. You have to force yourself to play really slow, and to, for example, let me play this like an easy scale, C major. Probably everybody knows this scale. So if you do like this kind of stuff, doesn't sound so good, because it's really going more or less going up and down the scale. This one and another one, like here, for example. And I went down. If I explain this with my hand, these are the notes of my scale. If you only go up and down this way, it won't sound so good. But if you do, like, I would say, how can I say that? Knots, just like with a string, you do knots with a melody, and this will probably sound much better. So you have to do it really slow, not on the backing track, but to find new ways of playing new melodies. And it will take some time to become a reflex, and to be able to play it on the backing track with the tempo and with some pressure. So I hope this helps. This is something that you have to work very slow, because it's something that's natural. And if you want to change it, you have to, it's more or less, you have to reprogram yourself, more or less. Thanks a lot for all your your messages. Why did I choose Gypsy Jazz compared to rock jazz or others? I don't play only Gypsy Jazz. Are you referring to this live session? If I do this live session in Gypsy Jazz, it's because now during the COVID-19, now I just have my Gypsy Jazz guitar, but probably in the weeks to come I will have my other guitars, so I will probably do live sessions on other styles of music. Why did I choose to play Gypsy Jazz? Because I really like this music. I really like the music of Django Reinhardt. And I find this music more, how can I say that? More things that I find more simple, more straight to the point than in jazz, in American jazz. But I like both styles of music. I like a lot of styles of music. I like Brazilian music. Oh, I see your Brazilian guys is here. How do you think when you're improvising? Arpeggio scales. When I improvise, I think I never answered to this question. It's interesting. When I improvise, well, first thing you have to know is that I worked a lot my arpeggios and my scales. So I know when I see, for example, let's see a B7 chord, I know exactly. So I see here on my neck, I see all the notes of this chord. I can check it by playing. This is kind of a funny exercise you can do, but I find it really interesting. By playing with only one finger and not on the not like this, but I just move the order of the notes. This is an exercise you can do to check if you know your arpeggios. You really know them. So the scales, I also know a lot of scales, and the arpeggios. I know my arpeggios. When I improvise, sometimes usually I start with notes that are in the chord, and I sing things. So I start like playing this, and then to know what note I will play after that, I try to sing the most beautiful notes, even though I know a lot of things that work, that I memorized, that I hear, but I'm able to play without hearing them before I play. For example, chromaticism. It's in the B7 chord. All this works. I don't have to hear it to be able to play it and to know that it will sound good. But as much as possible, I sing the things I want to hear. I think about this melody and I know exactly, so I sing. And I know where to play it on the neck. So it's not, this question is interesting and it's tricky because I don't exactly know how my brain works. I cannot exactly know. And I think about various things at the same time. There are a lot of things that are not really conscious. For example, my arpeggio, I know really well my B7 arpeggio, but I don't think only about my arpeggio. But I know where the notes are, you know. It would be more or less when you know how to drive, you know the signs and all this stuff. You think about where I am going to go, and there are a lot of reflexes you have that you've worked. So it works more or less this way for me. But I'm very focused on how it will sound. I'm not into, oh, this lick works, so I will play this lick. I don't like this way of thinking the music, and I take no pleasure by doing it. This is why I don't like to do it. It's not because it sounds bad. It's It's snowing in Finland. It's raining in Paris. What Bach piece do you recommend for working on Gypsy Jazz guitar? Is this because I made a post a few days ago about Bach music? I don't know. I will recommend Django Reinhardt tunes to work on Gypsy Jazz, but Bach music is not the same music as Django, and it's really good, and it's interesting to work the technique, but it's not. I don't know. Probably the partita, the cello suite, cello for the solo cello. How can I say that? Yeah. These are great tunes of Bach. Ear training. What I think about ear training. I think that it's really important to hear what you play and to understand what you like in the music you hear, you listen to. It can be gypsy jazz or it can be any kind of music. If you're like, oh, I love this song, this sound, sorry. I love this sound. You have to be able to analyze it, to understand why you like this sound. It can be the instrument you like. It can be the note choice of the guy who plays the solo. It can be the rhythmical effect. It can be anything, but you have to be able to analyze it. And training, being able to recognize it and to recognize chords and melodies and notes, it's really important if you improvise. So having a good ear is really important if you want to get better at improvising. This is something you can do naturally when you play, and this is something that you do naturally when you play, but it can be a good idea to do exercises to be able to recognize some specific notes. To my point of view, it's not something that's really useful for every student. For example, for my students, when I see that the problem in their playing is that they don't hear so much the notes, sometimes they play a note that sounds really bad and they don't hear it. So then I will advise them some ear training exercises. Or it can be also very advanced players who want to recognize very complicated chords and to be able to recognize this because they want to have a really great level. So this is also something that's interesting and important. Personally, I did a lot of ear training exercises to be able to recognize really fast the notes, the chords, the colors of the chords, and all this stuff. And I transcribe a lot of music, Django Reinhardt, but not only. So I when I transcribe, I do ear training. And I know there are some debates about this on internet. I saw some videos about debates. I don't really understand why there's a debate, but but yes, ear training is important. It's not as important as knowing how to play, but it's really important. So there's a French guy, Romain Balivet, who has a questions because he comes from metal music, and he asks me if it's really important to strike the strings to play this music with typical technique with all the downstrokes. Yes, it's really important, and it changes a lot from metal music where you can play alternate picking or even economy picking, which is even better. But yes, yet when you do downstrokes, this is the reason. If I can, there's a question about the 3 triplets 3 times that I've shown on one of my lick lessons. Yes, the easiest way is to, first you have to hear it. So it's a very typical, a very specific lick that Django played. On this tempo, it will go like 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da. This is something that you can do melodically, but this is something that Django does a lot when he plays la pompe, when he plays rhythm. So it goes like, the technique is just like that. And it's played just after the 1. So it's 1. For example, 1. This was on the ending of to this moments where Django plays this triplets 3 times that I call T-Hey. It refers to Indian music, even if Django Reinhardt doesn't play Indian music, but I hope that this helps. But on my video, you can see how to play it very, and I think I played slowly, so. Yes, I think Dennis Cheng gives some advices about what type of guitar to buy. Yes. I think he knows this, all the models you can buy, the cheap models. They sounded awesome. Oh, I want to see that. But if you buy a like 500 euros guitar and the guitar sounds okay, it's awesome. Yet it's really, because it's very common. I find really a lot of guitar that are 1,000 euros and that sound really bad. So if for 500 euros you can have a guitar that sounds okay, that's great. How do you learn the structure of a song so that you can easily remember it? Well, I would suggest 2 things. The first thing is to understand what is the chord function related to the key of the song. For example, let me take an easy song. Minor string? No, it's too simple. All right, minor swing. So minor swing, there are 3 chords: A minor, D minor, and E7. So you have to understand that this chord is the first chord, the main chord, because it's the 1st degree. The G minor is the 4th degree, and the E7 is the 5th degree of the scale. This is something you have to understand, and it's really easy on minor swing, but on other tunes, it's more subtle, more complicated. On All of Me, for example, C major, so it's a tune in the key of C major, and then there's E7, A7, D minor. So this chord is the dominant of this one, which is the dominant of this one, which is the second degree of the scale. And the other tip I can give you is to really be able to connect, to understand, to memorize what it feels like when the second chord of the key is played, or when the dominant of the second chord of the key is played. And for every tune that you will play, don't just memorize by heart the chords and don't listen to what you play. No, listen to the feeling you have. For example, when I play on All of Me, this chord is surprising. You know, the E7, second chord of the All of Me, is surprising, but it's more or less a bit not so stable. Then it goes to the A7, which is not so stable, but that sounds good after E7, and then D minor, which is more stable, but it sounds more or less, I would say, sad, because it's a minor chord. So you have to connect with your feelings to understand the function of the chords and to connect with your feelings. That will really help you when you will hear a new song. You will know right away what are the chords of the song. I mean, that's the goal you can aim. It takes a lot of time, of course. All right, there's someone who's in love with me on the chat. All right, why not? So when you learn a few licks on a tune, how do you organize when to sound them? How can I make when you learn a few licks and you want to play them on a tune? It's not try to play these licks at different moments. Not only, yes, it starts on the one and it ends on this note, that try to play them before and after the typical moment. Because if you only do very classical licks and very obvious licks, it will sound like, I would say, a jazz method, more or less. I'm making fun of it because I do jazz and then you play the lick. So try different moments, but it has to be more or less on the right chords. Of course. Hi from the US. My guitar is not a Cigano, no. It's a Dupont guitar. It's kind of a famous luthier. Dupont, and it's a great guitar. It's called a Vieille Réserve. It's a really good model of guitar that I like. Not all of them sound good, but I think that mine sounds great. Some easier Django songs to transcribe to start with. Yes, I can give you two, for example. The first chorus of Lentement Mademoiselle, Lentement Mademoiselle, and another one which is what it's called, this blues. It's a blues played by Django Reinhardt, and it's called, I don't remember. If you go on my Sound Slice channel, you will find this blues. I don't remember the name of this blues. Yes, Zurbidi. It's a complicated name. I don't remember exactly the name of the song, but go on my Sound Slice channel. You see the name of the song. You look briefly at the transcription, and then you try to transcribe it yourself. And then you look at my transcription and you see if you made any mistakes. It's great to see as many questions, so many people. That's awesome. Do you think we can begin with guitar with Gypsy, or should we begin with some rock or blues and slowly get to Gypsy? Because it seems simpler than Gypsy. And if you had to keep just one exercise, I would suggest for people who don't have so much energy for working the technique, I would more suggest to do to play jazz on an electric guitar and not necessarily Gypsy jazz, because I find it more difficult to play. If you want to play acoustic with the right technique, it's much more difficult than I would say electric jazz. But jazz or rock or blues, if you hesitate, for example, between jazz and rock and blues, no, go straight to the style of music you like, because you will have much more energy to learn this style of music. Whereas if you start with blues and you don't really like blues, but you love jazz, and you are forced to learn blues for a few years, you will quit. In Gypsy jazz, it's mostly 4/4. No, 3/4. Yes, 3/4 for waltz. Yes, but not Django Reinhardt. Not 5/8 and 7/8. No, not that I know. But I'm pretty sure he doesn't play this. So I said -1 is too simple to analyze. I didn't say that it's a simple tune to play. It's simple to analyze because there are only 3 chords, more or less. Okay, just a few more questions, and then I will stop the live session. It's really great to see as many questions. Yes, it's only in English because the French live session was yesterday. One song to start with. Minor Swing is a great song to start with to learn Gypsy Jazz. Or dominant diminished scales as effective in Gypsy Jazz as they are in traditional bebop? I would say no, because some modern sound, I can say it's not really modern, but are not so much used in Gypsy Jazz. For example, this kind of chord. Let me go on. Let me take someone that sounds really, I would say, modern. I want to go on a D minor chord, and I have an A7. If I play a typical voicing for the diminished scale that I can play on the A7, it will go like this one, like this. This is a A7 with a minor ninth and major 13th. If I do this and I play like, it will sound very if you play this kind of stuff. So let me follow this path on the guitar. I can do something like, it will sound really modern, but still Gypsy Jazz. But I would say that it's much more common to use the diminished scale on dominant chords in bebop. In bebop, it depends on what kind of bebop, because we call bebop, but Charlie Parker didn't use it so much. It was, sometimes he used it, but not so. It was after Charlie Parker that we used this a lot. Maybe one or two more questions. Can you show us? Yes, the waltz. You typically play a waltz rhythm. I've got the La Pompe, but it seems that the waltz rhythm is slightly different in terms of the right hand. Yes, well, the energy of the waltz is not exactly the same, because in swing music, when you play 4/4, you want this tung, 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 this stuff that make people dance. Waltz is much more, I would say, tries to be much more elegant, even if the rhythm, boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, chick. Let me show you this. When I do this, this is one way of playing rhythm in waltz. So I play this low E, it's an E minor. And then I play twice this chord. But it's not as heavy as in swing. It's not like that. It's more. It's slightly. It's more or less. It can be like that. So it's lighter, I would say. And I would advise you to try different ways of accompanying waltz, to try what you like, because there are a lot of different ways to play, to accompany when you play waltz, and to listen to people who play waltz. And this is really important. It will help you. But the right hand technique is really close. I would say the same technique, more or less. Do you know of any app to practice chord progression with ear training? No, I'm sure there are some that exist, but I don't know. What I did, it's not So, but what you can do is just play a backing track and try to find a chord, and then you look at the backing track and you see if you're right. This is another way to practice. What I did a lot is guessing the chords of the in tunes in jazz, for example, Miles Davis, Chet Baker. I tried as much as possible to guess what's the chord to sing the note in the bass and all this stuff. Last question. So last question from Pen. How do you approach gypsy jazz? You follow traditional song or you explore new ideas? This is an interesting question. I would say that my main goal is to play the music I find the most beautiful, to my point of view. And it's not so easy because I have to work to get better, to hear the things better, to be able to know it, if you know something. So what I know is that I really love the music of Django Reinhardt. This I know. And all the things that he does, I really like it. I'm not able to do the same thing, but I don't want to do exactly the same thing because I'm not Django and there's only Django who can play like Django. Every person has his own personality in music, and I want to do the things that sound natural to me, how can I say that are easy for me to do. And I try as much as possible to create my own licks, my own music, my own composition. I recorded compositions with a band that's called Paris Music Tales. You can find it on YouTube. And so I played a lot of composed songs and all of this. And concerning the melodies and the lick, I really follow my instinct, and I try to use the concepts that I like and that I analyzed mostly from Django Reinhardt. The kind of lick that he does, the logic of his music that I analyzed, and the things that I really like in his music. I try to get all the ideas I can to create my own music. And this is something that I create little by little. It's a very slow process, and it's something that's really not, how can I say that, spectacular, because it's really slow and aiming at the. So I hope that I answered the questions. Well, the time is over. Thank you very much to all of you for participating to this live session. This live will be available on my YouTube channel for a few weeks, I guess. If you want to have more private sessions or more content to download, for example, you can support me on Patreon. Patreon if you speak English, and TP for the French guys. You will be able to download all of my backing tracks. You probably know that I have quite a lot of videos on my YouTube channel. Most of them are in French. I'm sorry about it. But I will do more in English. But yet, I don't have the idea to go English, as some people ask me. So I will keep producing content in French with the subtitles on every video that I produce. You will be able to, there are subtitles in English for the English-speaking guys like you. And I will, in the next month, I will publish some videos in English. So thanks again for participating, and have a great day, depending on where you live.